opening of the places of worship. In his address of the nation on June 7th, 2020, His Excellency the President, actually July 7th, I beg your pardon, 2020, His Excellency the President ordered the reopening of the places of worship, of course in phases with strict guidelines. But before we delve into the discussion, let's listen to one of our reporters, Hassan Idris, who went on the streets of Nairobi to get Kenyans' views on this issue. Hassan Idris.
In his address of the nation on the 6th July, the President of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, set strict guidelines on how to reopen the places of worship. And this move has been received with a mixed reaction. And today, we are on the streets of Nairobi to gather views on the same.
Kwa majina mimi ni Timothy Wanyande. The place of worship, I believe it was a good idea to open them. Since we have been out of this space for quite a long time, and we felt that we needed actually to go to be near our Creator, who is God.
Basically, it's fine so long as the rules and the regulations are put in place. Besides that, the other thing is someone to take care of himself as well as his counterparts who are sitting beside him, or keeping the distance as well.
Yeah, I think it's a nice move because coronavirus is a pandemic. Like, we don't know, we don't have the cure. Maybe cure is from God, who will just help us to heal it. Maybe just believe. I believe so, and I believe in God too. He can help us to the normal life. Currently, everything is shut. We don't have anything to do. You just have to pray to God, such that that's the idea.
My name is John Mashua. Wengi wananiitanga Masha. Anyway, concerning the reopening of the places of worship, I don't think it's too early. I think if considering the government wakitaka kufanya kitu wanafanya hata meetings za political meetings, and kukona hiyo social distancing, kukona watu wana sanitize, watu wanaosha mikono. After all, hatuwezi kaa ati tumekaa sasa tumeogopa COVID ati ni hivyo kila kitu itasimama juu ya COVID. No. I think juu tunaamini Mungu, I think the best thing ni kureopen.
I think it is okay because you see other operations are running right now. So places of worship, if the people in charge are going to follow the directions which have already been given, I think it is going to be well and good, because you see everything is resuming back to normal right now. So when we sideline those people who are in charge of churches and whatever, I think it is going to disadvantage them. So I think it is in order for the places to be opened as it is right now. Following the regulations, it is going to be well and good. Yeah.
Naitwa Gideon Kairanga. Aswa kabisa kusema makanisa zifunguliwe, misikiti zifunguliwe, Hinduism zifunguliwe ni kuhatarisha maisha. Aswa kabisa ukiangalia hesabu sasa hivi, ile hesabu iko inakuja na rate za juu zaidi. So sisi natarajia lockdown ifungwe, totally lockdown. Kamili lockdown, watu wote wakae kwa manyumba. Ili alafu serikali ifanye hii haraka kusearch house to house, waingie kupima nyumba kwa nyumba. Manake hata vile walifungua lockdown watu wakaanza kwenda maushago. Ndio umeona pia huko naye imeanza kuongezeka 8, 9, 10. Unaona hiyo ni rate za juu zaidi ambapo hazikuaga huko. Lakini vile walifungua imeanza kuongezeka. So upande wangu sijaona ikiwa vizuri zaidi vile walifungua na wakafungua mpaka hii makanisa vile wanasema. Sio vizuri. Mimi upande wangu sioni vizuri kabisa, kwa sababu bado ni kuhatarisha maisha ya Kenya.
With the recent increase on the people who test COVID-19 positive, the President has convened a special meeting with all stakeholders handling the pandemic in the country. Hassan Idris, HorizonTV.
Thank you so much, Hassan Idris, for that amazing report. Indeed, mixed reactions from Kenyans on the streets of Nairobi in regards to the opening of the mosque. On the 10th of July 2020, the Jamia Mosque Committee, after March deliberations, came out clearly and stated that they were not going to open the mosque as had envisioned on the 14th of July. It was expected everywhere that the mosque were going to be open at least by the 14th of July. And Jamia Mosque actually led once again, led from the front and saying that we are not going to open the mosque. We have Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome, who's from a member of Jamia Mosque Committee, who's going to tell us much more about that. After the Jamia Mosque statement in regards to opening of the mosques, we had Parklands Mosque following suit, we had Hurlingham Masjid following suit, and recently we had Adams Mosque as well following suit. Of course, some masajids have already opened, and that's why we are having Mufti Hassan Yusuf, who is a member of the National Muslims COVID-19 Response Committee, who has been actually on the forefront inspecting some mosques and given certificates, actually issued certificate for them to open. And last but not least, we have our elder, our sheikh, our beloved sheikh, our deputy chief Qadi Sheikh Sukyan Hassan who's in studio with us here to address this issue. Gentlemen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for joining us. Just straight into it, Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome, you came out strongly. I mean, by you, I mean Jamia Mosque, and you refused to open the mosque, even after the president coming out on the 6th of July to give the go-ahead and the green light for the mosque to open, of course, with strict guidelines. But again, you came out and said that you are not going to open the mosque as I'd envisioned. Why was that the case?
Thank you very much. Faisal, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It is true. Jamia once again led, and I know when you say led, because even when it was time to close the mosques, we did not even wait for the government to announce the closure of places of worship. We did come out after consulting our medics, and we decided to close down the mosque. Now, of course, we want to begin by appreciating that the president lifted the ban on places of worship and they should be opened, but under very strict guidelines. One thing that the viewers have to understand, the Interfaith Council gave a roadmap of phase reopening of the mosque. There are actually 5 phases. People are talking of 4 phases, and I'm happy Sheikh Sukyan is with us here. He's a member of that committee. There are actually 5 phases. And our concern was on phase, not 1, pre-opening phase. That was our main concern. Because if you look at the roadmap that has been given, they say we have the pre-opening phase before phase 1, and that's where the strict guidelines say the numbers that will be admitted in every place of worship will be 100. We as Jamia Mosque had a concern with that. We are the largest mosque in East Africa. Our staff alone are 120. So we don't even need to open the doors for people outside in that phase to bring them in. Our capacity is 5,000 on a normal day. With the social distancing, we can accommodate a minimum of 1,700. That's why we said we are going to wait for phase 1. And if you look at phase 1, the guidelines are very clear. They have been shared with us. There is no restriction to the numbers that can be admitted. It will depend on the capacity of the mosque. How many can be accommodated in a mosque? So that is the main reason.
You're holding back because of the numbers?
Because of the number and the size of our mosque. And we said this is specific to Jamia Mosque and any other large mosque.
But again, the other mosques now have followed suit after you came out to not to open the mosque. Other mosques have followed suit.
Yes, and if you look at the mosques that followed us, those are the large mosques, mainly the large mosques. I know there are some large ones, like in Israel, some large ones opened them, but this is a very individual decision specific to this mosque.
Given its strategic location in the CBD with a lot of working class in town who always rely on Jamia Mosque when it comes to prayer area, what have you tried to do about that, as opposed to waiting for just the pre-phase to be complete and wait for phase 1? What have you done about that, maybe to speed the process?
Of course, we have sensitized the congregants, because these mosques bring people together from all over. And the more reason why we could not work with the number of 100, because with our staff alone, we don't even need to open the gates. And we know many people within the CBD and CBD rely on this mosque. The more reason why we felt it will be so difficult to control people to only 100, and that's why we are waiting for phase 2. What are we doing in the meantime? Sensitization of our staff in preparation for phase 1, sensitization of the congregants, telling them when we think we are going to reopen the mosque as soon as the 3 weeks are over, the 21 days are over. And we are using social platforms. We are using the Friday bulletin, which came out very clearly last Friday, and this Friday also, I'm sure something is in the Friday bulletin. And of course, through our mouthpiece, the Horizon TV.
Thanks so much. Qadi Sukyan, you are part of the team as well, the IFK Interfaith Council, the IFC, sorry. You are part of the team mandated by the government, of course, through the Ministry of Interior and Coordination to spearhead this thing. Was this number realistic? Was it well thought of? What was the wisdom behind the 100 number figure?
Well, thank you so much, Brother Faisal, on HorizonTV for this opportunity again. That number is not a magic. The council really deliberated on this very much. Our first initial guidelines that we presented to the government for consideration does not include the first or the prefacing of the opening of the place of worship. Remember, ours is advisory. The role of the council is advisory to the government. And the government, in as much as it's advice from the council, also have other sources of advices, right? Therefore, we believe that the other advices which influence the presidential directives limiting the number of the congregants at once to 100. So, after the presidential announcement of the same, then we have to adjust ourselves and consider that as a blessings, that it's a period for us to check ourselves, especially in terms of sensitization, as Brother Lethome said, and as well as piloting our guideline itself. Therefore, it's a period for, according to the presidential directives, it's a period that doesn't exceed 21 days or 3 weeks. Already, almost we are now completing. We do not know what will happen, but the essence of the same is limiting the exposure of many people to the infection. Therefore, we adopted the same. We thought it's a wise, and then we included it in the guideline. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Deputy Chief Qadi Sheikh Sukyan. Mufti Yusuf, you're part of the team, actually, of the compliance committee. This is the subcommittee inspecting the masajid, especially around Nairobi, before they are given the green light or the go-ahead to open the mosques. And I believe that you have at least right now inspected over 10 mosques.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa thana'u lillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. First of all, I thank you for having me. Yes, we have inspected more than 10 mosques now, and most of them have complied with the guidelines that we gave them, of course, from the National Muslim COVID Response Committee, and alhamdulillah, more than 10 are open by now.
Even the 100-figure number per congregation?
The 100 figure, that one, each mosque has its own COVID-19 team that is supposed to check all these guidelines, whether they are followed. And we hope that, we think that they are following those guidelines.
So, my question is, even in the congregational prayers, do they also adhere to the 100 number figure per congregation? Do they?
When we were inspecting,
yes,
we actually told them that this is phase 1 and this is the pre-phase. If you can't comply by these guidelines that have been given as per now, there is no need of you opening and bringing trouble. You know, you can't fight the government.
Okay.
But if you see that you can comply by this, either by doing 2 Jumas or so, you are good to go. But alhamdulillah, others who said we will be doing this, they were ready and they opened. The other places that had many people like Jamia, Parklands and the rest stayed behind and said after the restrictions of the numbers have been withdrawn, we can actually open.
Interesting. Now, you've mentioned about each mosque having its own self-regulatory system, that they have their local arrangement in terms of oversight. Do you, as a compliance committee, inspect or re-inspect after you've already given them the certificate, just to ensure that they are compliant with the rules that have been set?
Yes, we do. The certifying and of course auditing and checking. After we give you a go-ahead,
Yes.
we tell you this is temporary. If we come back and find that these rules are floated and all that, we can of course go to the next level and tell the leaders that have mandated us with this, that these regulations are not being followed. They said they have this and now they don't have again. What else? What other procedure will we take after that?
Interesting. Thanks so much. Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome, I'm going to come to you. With the current number in this country of those who have tested positive, starting at 15,601 out of the total 15,684,371. Of course, we're still waiting for the Ministry of Health to come out today later on at 3 p.m. to address the nation, and we get to know the new figures. But with the numbers on an ascending trajectory, do you think it's wise to open these, especially mosques, which are high catchment areas?
Let me begin by saying this. Do you know that the rising numbers were envisaged even in the guidelines? If you look at the guidelines, and I'm happy that Sheikh Sukyan is here, they say pre-phase does not envisage the numbers declining, but the numbers rising.
Okay.
Phase 1 also, the numbers will be rising. And actually, the determinant of when we move from phase 1 to phase 2 is when we plateau. When do we start plateauing? That is the curve leveling. So even the interfaith council envisaged a rising number of the infections will be rising. Okay. So for me, whether or not it was a wise decision, yes, it was a wise decision, because the country is opening up. Other sectors in the countries are opening up. Markets are opening up. People are traveling in public transport. Restaurants are opening up, and other social places are opening up. Of course, you cannot compare them with the places of worship.
Exactly.
But we needed this. Kenyans, very notoriously, I would use the words that have been used by the chairman of the Interfaith Council. We are notoriously religious. We need this element of people going back to the places of worship, but under the new normal. It's not business as usual. And that's why we have removed our carpets from the mosques. We have marked the mosques very clearly to ensure there is social distancing. We have reduced the contact time within the mosques. But whether necessary or not, I have no doubt in my mind it was very necessary to open the places of worship. I know we can pray at home, you can pray anywhere, but we needed that spiritual nourishment that we can only get in the places of worship, but of course with all those precautions.
So you think it was necessary? Sukyan, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you think it was necessary, again, at this point, to open the mosque? Now that yesterday we recorded the highest number, this is just to flash up the question, we recorded the highest number since 13th of March of this year, 796, 89% of which were asymptomatic. So a lot of us might be having this virus, but again, we are not showing the symptoms or not the signs. Sukyan, do you think it was wise to open the places of worship?
Thank you so much. Again, yes, there is still, despite the fact that there's a rise, there is need to reopen places of worship. We believe that prayers and dedication that you make to God Himself is part of a solution. It's a part of a solution. You have to invoke God, what He brought Himself to remove. So congregation is one of the places that we normally make our prayers. Places, as a Muslim especially, we are encouraged to make this serious prayers in congregations. 5 daily prayers, the Eid, whenever that you want to ask for a rain, God to remove any calamity, we come together and pray. Therefore, provided that we follow the guideline provided, strictly as it is, or the much we could do, right, there is that need. The other thing is that we do not know for how long will this infection or disease will be with us. Obviously, we can't say that there will be a total lockdown forever, or for as long as this pandemic will be with us. Okay? The place of worship would be like any other sector. In fact, even now, there is notion that the places of worship is treated indifferently from other sectors. I went around for sensitization. The feedback I got, the government is treating the place of worship indifferently. A good example, I traveled by air from Wajir to Nairobi. There is no social distances in the air. You just sit in this normal way. You just wander. People just sit, despite the fact that they added the fare. Okay? Now, I'm traveling for more than 1 hour from Wajir to Nairobi, in air and in enclosed place. There's no ventilation, obviously, in the aircraft. Okay. People wonder why SGR, which carries now 600 people, for how many hours does it travel between Nairobi and Mombasa? In an enclosed place for over 5 hours. People say that, feedback I got is that there is what we call application of the law injustly or selectively.
Selective.
This is the feedback I'm getting. I'm not inciting any religious people, but we as religious leaders, we have the responsibility to make sure that our people are safe. So, and we think that guideline is a guideline that could help us. Therefore, despite the fact that this virus is rising, the council with its own wisdom find it even at the time when the graph or the curve is going up, okay, still we need to reopen that's for phase 1 actually, all right? And then, of course, with the capacity will be guided by our social distancing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, conversation here getting hot and hot and hot right here on Live Real Talk. Lives or livelihood? I mean, it's one question that has been ringing in a lot of Kenyans' head, of course, the president included, going back to the way things were or embracing the new normal. All these are questions that we want to answer right here on Live Real Talk when we get back after the break. Please don't you go away.
Quote of the day. Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu said, "Do not quarrel and do not create differences among yourselves. Hold fast to the rope of Allah and maintain unity in your ranks."
Verse of the day.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا ثم استوى إلى السماء فسواهن 7 سماوات وهو بكل شيء عليم.
It is He who created for you all that which is on earth. Then He directed Himself to the heavens, His being above all creation, and made them 7 heavens, and He is knowing of all things.
Thank you so much for keeping it live. Real Talk with your host here, Faisal, Kassim. Of course, I'm having amazing panelists in the studio. Mufti Yusuf Hassan. I'm having Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome. And the best among us, as we're having Deputy Chief Qadi, Sheikh Sukyan Hassan Omar. Welcome once again, gentlemen. And thank you so much for keeping it live. Real Talk. Talk of guidelines to reinstate this mosque, or rather places of worship reopening. There are a number of guidelines that are supposed to be there. And Mufti, this is coming to you. Have all the mosques complied 100%? Because we have seen a mosque like Jamia Mosque. I wish my producer could get me pictures of Jamia Mosque, how they have prepared. They have even removed the carpets. They have turned the Quranic shells and all that, things that are bringing mixed reactions as well in the Muslim community. Have all the mosques adhered fully 100% to these guidelines?
Thank you very much for the question. Most of the mosques that we've visited, some of them have removed the carpets because people, when we pray, we do sujood and all that. And we see it as a risk place when somebody else does sujood there, and of course sneezes, leaves anything there. When the other person comes, makes his or her sujood there, it's easy to get the virus. Other mosques which have not removed their carpet, they have the polythene, which is easy to clean. And of course, others who have also not have this removing the carpet, the polythene on the carpet, they have their way of fumigating. Using the fumigants and all that to disinfecting the place to actually reduce the risk.
Talk of financial muscles, the mosques that are especially they might be in informal settlements, they are not in a position to put up all these preparations in place, and they really want to open, they really want to go back, and they really want the congregants to come back and pray. What happens in such a situation?
Closing itself, as my scholars have said, it was a command from the government that mosques should close for now and churches should close because the numbers were going up. When it came to reopening, this was like rukhsa, that if you can comply and protect the congregants that pray in your particular place, it's okay for you to open. And if you see that you don't have that muscle to protect those who are praying in your place of worship, then you need to wait at least to the time that you can comply and all that. So reopening is rukhsa, and closing was kind of a command. And in Islamic Sharia, we know how to deal with rukhas and the commands.
If Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome can allow me to use his words that he just used earlier on, Kenyans, we are notoriously religious. So a lot of people have been pushing and wanting to come, get back to the places of worship and, join the fellow faithfuls in the congregation and in prayers. This as well cuts across the board, cut across the ages. And in the preface, there are strict guidelines, rules and regulations on who comes into the mosque to pray in congregation together with the other congregants. And part of the big block that has been locked out are anyone who is above 60 years old, 58 to be precise, in the preface, right? This is a recipe for disaster in some areas. Do we have mechanisms to bring in external force to support the staff of the mosque in ensuring that these rules are being followed as they should be?
Faisal, one thing we should understand where the interfaith committee is coming from, and the reason why they came up with that regulation. An age cutoff, and saying in the preface, if you look at it also, it's a roadmap also, keeps on changing with time. So preface, 58, below 58 and above 13. What is the reason? Ask them and look at the guidelines. It's very clear. They say, we know above 58, according to the medics, the immune is very low. So these people are very vulnerable. And also young children are very vulnerable. So that is the reason. We might have differed with them, but we need to appreciate the reasoning here. Is that can we protect those who are vulnerable? Actually, it's care and concern for the people who are vulnerable. And for us, We wish that could be amended a little bit, although we are happy in the second phase that is lifted and goes up to 65. And after that, it goes to no limit at all, okay? So he's saying, can we differentiate between, let it not just be an age cutoff, let it be those with an underlying condition. Can they stay at home? And they should be advised to stay at home, not commanded to stay at home. And also children. And again, for me as a Muslim, I want to walk with my son to the mosque. And especially now that schools are closed. Where else does this child get that spiritual nourishment except in the mosque? So, but that one is lifted. As we go to phase 1, that is lifted. And actually towards the end, we even go up to children below the age of 5 years and below. But all this is intended, and I want to thank them because there is a reason why they came up with that. It's to protect those who we feel, according to the advice from the experts, that these are people who are more vulnerable. But that could be amended a little bit, and we say those with underlying conditions. And that's why we have the thermal guns at the entrance, Faisal. That is my response.
Sheikh, all these phases and all this process, it's happening when the numbers are on an ascending trajectory.
Yes, no doubt about it. And that is envisaged even in the guidelines. Because when the numbers now start flattening, then there's no increase in the infection. We automatically go to phase 2. Actually, we go to phase 2 when we have the plateau.
But again, whatever is happening is different now.
It is right. That was
the mosques are opening, the places of worship are opening, the economy is opening, but again, the numbers are still on an ascending trajectory. Now, can you relate and say that the fact that the places of worship and other places, including the economy, is opening, that's why the numbers are rising?
Remember, the experts kept on telling us we have not yet reached the peak. So, when you talk about a peak and we are not yet there, what is expected? Rising numbers. So this was envisaged, this was expected, this I think was given, the guidelines were very clear about it. That pre-phase and phase 1, the numbers will still be rising. So no surprise at all. And if Faisal, nobody should dare just blame it to the opening of places of worship. The places of worship hardly opened a week ago from the 14th. And the numbers have been rising from the day the president announced the opening up of some of the counties. The numbers started, that's when we started seeing 400, and yesterday we saw 700, only 800 minus 4 only. And that can only be blamed to the politicians, those meetings that they are having there and many other, and those who are flouting the COVID and the curfew rules and the rest, Faisal, not places of worship.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome. Deputy Chief Qadi Sukyan, we are having Eid, inshallah, next week on Friday. Tutakula nyama, tutachinja, inshallah, and we are so much looking forward to that. Of course, with the president's announcement to open up the place of worship, some people might be understanding that, you know what, we have the green card now. Does that include the Eid prayers?
Well, the guidelines that we have is of 3 or 4 parts. The first part, which is the main focus, and many people are very much concerned about, is how to conduct ourselves in the places of worship, which act that is always with us. The second part is how to deal with our funerals. The guideline still provides guideline of the same. The second part is how to deal with our religious ceremonies. That is the third part, including the Eid that we're talking about. The fourth part deals with other rituals in the name of religion. Remember, people have other things, okay, apart from the Eid, the main celebrations. Therefore, our guideline is strictly provide for the same and how we conduct ourselves. Though might not be very detailed, this mainly is left to the members of the religious leaders to conduct themselves. Therefore, our advice to the Muslims as we wait for the Eid, which is very much, inshallah, maybe next Friday, I think it's going to be on next Friday, inshallah ta'ala. We think that, inshallah, the council will address this, inshallah, next week in this meeting, most likely on Tuesday. It's an issue that we deal with because having 100 people in an Eid is not very easy. But we need to appreciate that the government have already given guidelines or directives, or that is in talk. I don't know whether that has been communicated with too. The county governments or the provincial governments to provide or to allow the religious people to conduct their prayers and the ceremonies in public places like the field that we have, Wanja,
Yes.
Zetu, for free. Okay? That means that we need to accommodate more. We need to accommodate more. God willing, inshallah ta'ala, by Tuesday, we will be able to secure that and communicate with the Muslims how to perform our, inshallah ta'ala, Eid prayers.
So should we expect that, inshallah, there are possibilities or chances that we might perform our Eid prayers on the ground?
There's that possibility, yes.
There's that possibility.
Inshallah.
Interesting. As we are finalizing, Deputy Chief Kadib, I'm still going to ask you. His Excellency the President had convened a meeting, a special meeting, as Hassan Idris as well reported there, a special meeting with all the stakeholders addressing this pandemic, handling this pandemic straight up. It was supposed to be today, but again, on the request of the Council of Governors, from the Council of Governors, I beg your pardon, he has postponed the meeting to Monday the 27th. So, I guess this meeting was convened because of the rising numbers. What options do you think His Excellency the President has on his table?
We anticipate many options from His Excellency the President. The worst is the lockdown. But I do not think that is very, very easy. Remember, there are various forces that compete each other. There are various interests that compete each other. In as much as all of us, we are keen about the welfare and health of our people and the safety of our people, but also there are other agents that also affect the health and welfare of our people. It's the issue of the economy. Okay? So the economical interest is there on one side, and there's health interest on the other side. And also, of course, we as a worshippers, we have an interest. All of these are competing. Even there's also a political interest in it. Those are so many interests that is running parallel. If I hear the opinion or the voice of the experts in this area, on health area, what we have is that some experts, medical experts, are saying that locking down is not a solution. We hear this very well. It's coming up very, very clearly. If the medic's position is this, or maybe they've got mixed reaction or a mixed response to this, obviously the rest, I do not think that they are for the idea of the lockdown. And already the voice of the medics are also divided. Therefore, with this, in my view, and seeing also what His Excellency the President's decisions before was based on consultation, pure consultations. Okay, I am of the view that the issue of the lockdown might be not come out. Therefore, we anticipate perhaps another device of strict rules to be followed. That might be some of the things that we anticipate. But I don't think that it's going to be a lockdown based on those informations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome, if you had 5 minutes with the President ahead of this meeting that's upcoming on Monday, what would you advise him to do if he was to take your counsel?
If His Excellency was to take my counsel,
yes,
and I hope he does, I would tell him, number one, we have to sensitize Kenyans that this is something that is not going to go away tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. We just need to learn how to live with this virus without our people being affected so much. And the reason why actually there was a lockdown and then the President decided to ease some of the measures is not because the coronavirus had gone away. No, it's because, and the experts have put it very clearly, it's because we are now better informed of the nature of the problem we are facing. We are better informed on how we can protect ourselves. we are better informed on how we can avoid the spread. So my advice would be, can the president be more strict? And especially with the leaders, they should lead from the front in observing some of the guidelines. If we're able to observe the guidelines that have been put in place, then we shall be able to continue with our livelihoods without risking the lives of our people. So that would be my wise counsel to His Excellency, the President, and also advise the religious leaders to pray very hard, because we trust in Allah, take precautions, whatever is humanly possible, we do it, observe the guidelines, and I believe we are good to go. No more lockdown is not an option for us.
No. Thanks so much. Mufti, Yusuf, please, as we are summarizing, inshallah, if you were to advise His Excellency the President as well, what do you think it's best wise to be done at this point as he is meeting the people, inshallah, on Monday?
If I was to advise him, the first thing I'll, of course, say lockdown is not an option, because economies, people are affected economically. Those who had small jobs are not getting them anymore. And of course, it looks like some people are taking this to stigmatize the religious places of worship. Is like they're the ones making this virus to come up. It's not true. Of course, as my former teacher said, we are a religious country, a religious nation. We also, as we take these precautions to fight corona, we also need to take spiritual precautions, of course, praying to God to remove it and all that. So even going back, if somebody thinks that closing back down the places of worship, that is also not an option. They should be open, but with the regulations that are put in place.
Wow. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for us this afternoon. I just need to apologize to our viewers. Not that I have ignored your messages and questions today on SMS. If my producer can zoom it in, I've been having a problem with this. I'm trying to refresh every other time just to read your messages and everything. Just a technical hitch, kidogo. Every time I'm trying to refresh, but again, something it's just not coming up. It's despite having internet and everything. I guess it's just but a technical hitch. But once I get it, I have the sheikhs, I have the scholars on our YouTube. We were streaming live as well. We're going to post those questions there and answer those questions. I'm going to ask them, inshallah, personally. Alhamdulillah, I can access all of them, and I can access them once we fix the site that is serving us. Thank you so much for keeping it live, Real Talk. Thank you so much for being with us here at Horizon TV. Next week, we won't be with you. Why? Because we will be happy outside there celebrating, and I take this opportunity to wish you Eid Mubarak in advance. Thank you so much. I need to thank my team who made all this thing possible. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.